A special thanks to my Patreon supporters. For those who have been home during a home burglary, how did you handle the situation? While I was in graduate school, I was getting some much needed and probably pretty deep sleep in the afternoon after pulling an all-nighter and turning in a paper that was due earlier in the day, and woke up to hear two guys talking to each other in the next room. I was very confused but luckily realized what was going on before I said anything or got up. Heard them talking about how to get my TV out of my apartment and decided it was probably best to just act like I was sleeping and hope they just went on their way. While laying there I realized I had a cordless phone nearby. Dialed 911 and didn't say anything, just whispered, "Help." Cops showed up 10 minutes later just as the two guys were walking out the door. Woke up. Felt good. Got my TV, laptop, and a bunch of video games back. Did not go back to sleep. Finally appreciated the mandatory response to any 911 call. Moral of the story: if you need to call 911 and aren't sure what to say, it's the thought that counts and you don't need to say a word. TLDR, burglars woke me up, whispered help to 911, cops got the bad guys. You won't believe this, but I actually shouted, "Have at thee," when some guy broke into my house. 2 a.m., I'm alone, wife's away, and I hear a door, someone climbing the stairs, etc. Still half asleep, I figured it was in my head until I saw a flashlight walking into my bedroom. Went for my 4-cell and leapt out of the rack with the stupidest war whoop ever, and he pearled before I could grab him. I'm still pissed off I wasn't awake enough to catch him. At any rate, seeing a 200 pounds, barely dressed, hairy fat ass come charging at you out of the dark has to be terrifying enough. Oh, I missed grabbing my mag light and instead grabbed the power strip. Halfway out the room before I realized I was brandishing a power strip, alarm clock, cell phone charger, and night lamp. File under, crazy white boy with issues. Not about me, but about my family. One night, my aunt, who was in her late teens/early 20s at the time, was awoken by strange sounds coming from downstairs. It was far too late for anyone to be wandering around the house, so she grabbed a baseball bat and walked into the hall. She checked my uncle's bedroom door. Closed. She checked my mom's bedroom door. Closed. Grandma wasn't home, as she worked nights. Aunt decides to investigate on her own. She peeks downstairs and can see someone trying to enter through the kitchen window, clad in black. She can't see their face, but she doesn't take chances. She quietly sneaks back upstairs, grabs the telephone and calls 911. She actually worked at the police dispatch center, so she actually knew the person who picked up on the 911 line. She tells this person to send cops right away, that someone was breaking in. Within only a couple minutes, a couple police cars pull up to the house and cops head towards the kitchen, both inside and outside, guns drawn. It seems that the burglar was stuck in the window. The police grabbed him by the legs and pulled him out and had him pinned to the ground. Aunt comes running up to see who the burglar was. It was my uncle. He snuck out in the middle of the night to go and get drunk with his friends. He was underage, forgot to bring the key and locked himself out, and was so shit-faced and fat that he couldn't manage to push himself through the kitchen window. My dad's story. He was living in an apartment on the second floor. One night he was woken from slumber from some noise in the living room. Being from Texas, he grabs his shotgun, standard Texas issue when any Texas citizen comes of age, and slowly and silently moves into the living area like a redneck ninja. He sees the balcony door open and a dude rummaging through the stuff in the darkened living room. My dad, the badass, says nothing. Does not move. Does not make a peep. He simply cocks his shotgun. Upon hearing this, the burglar does not turn around. He does not hesitate for a second. He runs through the open door, leaps off the balcony and just starts running when he hits the ground. I don't think my dad even bothered to call the cops. I honestly never even thought to ask him if he did. TLDR, my dad is a redneck ninja with a shotgun. Semi-off topic, but here's a good story. About a year back, I was sitting at home playing Minecraft, how I spent most of my time last summer, with a few buds on a server. We were all from different states, so we didn't know each other in real life or anything. We're all in a call together on Skype. We're all playing, as usual, and all of a sudden we hear a huge bang come from someone's microphone. He lived with a roommate, but was home alone at the time. As he lived in a rather small apartment, he turns around and could see the guy right there. Obviously the 15 seconds consisted of sort of things going back and forth like, "Get the fuck out, fuck you bitch." Luckily enough, the robber wasn't armed or anything, and when my friend began to run at him with a, "laugh if you'd like," but it was effective, wireless keyboard. I'll never forget it. Because other than the screaming going on his side of the chat, everyone else was dead silent for a few minutes as he called the police. Do traditional archery. I also sleep naked. These will be relevant points in about 20 seconds. My last house wasn't in the nicest of neighborhoods. Not bad, but not really the kind of place you want to leave a door unlocked. Luckily for me, I remembered to lock the door, but forgot that I'd burned something in the oven earlier and left the kitchen window cracked. At this point, I lived alone with my 2 cats, but my Tom might as well be a guard dog. About 2 in the morning, I heard my cat going apeshit in the living room, and I knew something was up. So I grabbed my bow off of the wall, 40 #recurve, I keep it strung, and now some archer's gonna yell at me for it, and knocked an arrow. Walked into the living room quietly, flipped on the light, and behold, a young man half in, half out of my kitchen window, straddling it like a horse. It's not an easy window to climb through, the sill is about at eye level. Drew back to my anchor, lined up my shot, and said, "Wrong house, motherfucker." He stared at me completely dumbfounded/terrified for a moment. Considering that he'd just been caught in the act of breaking into a house by a 62-inch bow-wielding woman wearing nothing but socks, I think he handled himself quite well actually. He promptly rolled out of my window and beat feet. Drew down, rehung my bow, got dressed, and called the police. I don't think they believed me, and the guy was never found. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with my best friend and my dog. When we moved in we decided to buy a shotgun for home protection since we lived on a more dangerous part of town. So one night I wake up to the sound of my dog growling. He is a lab who is always friendly, so as soon as he was showing aggression towards something, I knew someone had broken in. I grabbed the shotgun from under my bed, we decided to keep it in my room because I had more experience shooting, and went to go check out what was up. As soon as I opened the door my dog ran out and started barking at the guy that had broken in. My dog didn't do anything but stand there and bark. Right at that moment I pointed my shotgun at this guy and told him to lay down. I gave him a choice, either stay still and wait till the cops show up, or I will shoot you if he tried to run. I live in Texas, so it's legal to shoot an intruder inside of your house. He decided to stay on the ground and wait for the cops to show up. I yelled my roommate's name until he woke up and told him to call the cops. I'm glad he decided to wait for the cops to show because I don't think I would have been able to shoot him. TLDR, caught an intruder in my apartment, gave him the choice of life or death, he chose life. I was working the morning shift at the time and was about to go to sleep around 9 a.m. when I heard a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole and there was a huge dude that I did not recognize standing there. I figured if I didn't say anything he would just go away. He did not. After a minute I walked into the other room trying to decide what I should do. While I was pacing, he threw his whole weight, probably a good 400 pounds, into my door and busted the frame right in. I screamed as loud as possible, "What the fuck," and grabbed my phone to call 911. 10 minutes later, locked in my bathroom, the cops finally showed up. He ran off once I screamed. I rode in the cop car and ID'd him a street over. Thinking back, if I had just said, "Who's there?" he probably would have left, but oh well. I was very disappointed how I actually reacted when something happened. I had taken self-defense and everything, but all I ended up doing was yell expletives and fumble to call 911. I was standing in my kitchen and didn't even grab a knife, uneasy face. I'm prepared now though. As a 23-year-old girl who grew up in the suburbs where nothing bad ever really happened, it sucked. I promptly moved. TL/DR, huge guy busted down my door at 9 a.m., I acted like a little chicken bitch and screamed, he ran off. Not a burglary, but someone did try to get into my house. A couple of years back, my sister and I were upstairs about to go to bed and I noticed a strange noise at the door. We realized that someone was trying to get into our house. My sister called the cops. I called my brother and he told me to stay in my room. In a couple of minutes I heard his car swerve into the driveway. I ran downstairs and looked through the peephole. I then saw my brother take the guy by his neck and belt and chuck him off the porch. Oh, and the cops never showed up either. TLDR, my brother was Uncle Phil and the intruder was Jazz. Had just moved my stuff into my new ground-level apartment and crashed on the couch. Hardly anything had even made it into the bedroom. That first night I heard voices, then a knife click, then my screens being cut. My nunchucks were right where I could get at them, so I started into the bedroom. The window opened and I saw two legs slide in, bam bam bam. I beat the fuck out of the back of those legs. I had a free and clear shot and I wailed on them. I got shots on both legs. Not something that would fuck someone up, but they weren't going anywhere. I let him go out the window and raced around the front to confront him. It turned out to be two teenagers that had been using the empty apartment as their fuck den. The guy was crying, the girl had to help him walk and they were terrified. I didn't do anything, they weren't going to do it again. Home alone one night I was sitting on the couch. Around 11 p.m. and my 10-month-old boxer went to the back door flipping out assuming she had to go potty. I let her out. To my surprise she went out barking and growling. I ran in and grabbed my bat to go and see what was going on. By the time I got outside she was hanging from a guy's shirt while he was halfway over our fence. He was punching her trying to get her to let him go. I went out there screaming telling him to go the fuck away. He then tells me he knows I'm home alone and will rape me if I don't shut the fuck up. By then my dog had let go and was trying to get to his throat. After he jumped down on the opposite side of the fence he kept saying things like "I'll rape you." Being a female and working 3 years in a ER where I'm threatened every day, I was sick of hearing this threat, so I opened my fence and let out my boxer. Her and I beat the crap out of the scumbag till the cops arrived. People heard his screams. He wasn't hurt bad, my dog mainly held him down. My brother had just left with his friend, so I was home alone at around 7:30 p.m. I'm sitting in my bed with my dog when the lights go out in my house. I'm thinking my city just experienced a power outage, so I leave my room and start walking around the living room. After about 3 minutes of using the flashlight app in my house I head back into my room with my dog and lock the door. So I'm in my room watching a YouTube video when I hear something break. Normally I never thought someone would try to break into my house, so I said the wind probably blew something over. Now my dog is snarling and I shush her when I see some lights going under my door. Someone tries to open it, but luckily I had it locked. While they go into another room I sneak up to my door and place my ear next to it. I hear a voice saying, "Grab the laptop." I'm freaking out, but still I have doubt that someone would break into my house. I was thinking my brother came back with a friend and were looking for stuff, so I yelled, "Who's out there?" No response, so I said it again, "Who's out there?" When I didn't get a response that time I just yelled, "Get out of my house. I'm calling the police." I call and the police arrive maybe 3 minutes after. The front door was broken into. The robbers took a stack of quarters and a camera. What scared me the most wasn't the experience but what my mom said afterwards. She said thank God the robbers weren't professionals or they might have broken into my room to shut me up. I had nightmares for a couple of days just thinking what if they tried to break into my room. The whole experience was frightening, but if anything I'm glad it happened to me instead of one of my cousins. When I was 5 years old, my dad was out of town on a business trip. I was sent to bed around 8 or so, then I vaguely remember my cousin waking me up at 10:30 or so and telling me that I needed to go to the office for a while. My initial excitement at being awake this late into the night quickly faded, and as boredom set in, I fell asleep and woke up the next morning, when I was promptly informed of what happened the night before. My mother was just getting ready to go to sleep, and was closing up the front of the house. Suddenly she heard a crash as the sliding glass door to the master bedroom was shattered. She immediately stormed to the back of the house, our Cavalier King Charles Spaniels yipping furiously at her heels. When she reached the bedroom she started screaming that she had a shotgun and was going to blow their motherfucking heads off if they didn't get the fuck out of her house right now. They fled, with one of the three getting caught later on in the night. TLDR middle-aged white woman swears bloody murder on burglars with imaginary shotgun, hounds of hell barking at her heels, 3 would-be robbers flee in sheer terror. I was very young, 3 years old, my older brother was 14. My mom and dad slept upstairs. A burglar, my nanny's brother, broke into the house at night through my brother's open window and he screamed. The robber got him in a chokehold and held a knife to his throat. When he took my brother into the hallway he looked up to see my fat, British, naked father standing on the other side with a .357 Magnum trained on his head. The robber made it out of the house alive and my father didn't take the shot as he ran away from the house, as that is illegal here in California. My brother, who is now 36, still sleeps with a night light. Later it was discovered that the burglar's intent was to abduct me because we were moving away from Los Angeles and my nanny didn't want to let me go.